that are part of our collective memory. For me, for example, I did not live in 1948 when the state of Israel became an independent state. I heard stories about it. It plays a big part in my identity, but I never lived through that event. And what I'm going to try and do now, I'm going to try and give you the collective history of the people who lived at the time of Jesus, including Jesus himself. And those are some of the events that they have in the back of their minds as they're encountering their everyday lives. So let's get started, right? Where does Jewish history really begin? Because I remind you, if you don't remember, Jesus is a Jew, right? Jewish history begins with a guy called Abraham around 4,000 years. Abraham does not live in the land we're at. He doesn't live in the land of Moriah, doesn't live in Canaan. Where does he live? He lives in a city called Ur in Iraq. And one day, Abraham starts hearing voices in his head. Those voices are telling him, leave your father's house and go to the land that I will show you, and I will make you a great nation. And Abraham, with his full devotion to God, follows through, walks through the desert, and gets to the land of Canaan. And then God tells him, all right, Abraham, I reaffirm the promise to you. This, and what you see behind me right now, this is your land for eternity. Just need that you do one little thing. Take your son, the one you love, Isaac, and sacrifice him to me. And don't do it like in a sleep in the tent or something. I want you to do it on a mountain, and the name of this mountain is Mount Moriah. If you look behind me, right over here, this golden dome is Mount Moriah. So, what happens next? Abraham takes Isaac, and he's about to take out the sword, and he's about to kill his first son. Then God tells him, stop. I was testing you. Abraham has a son named Isaac. Isaac has a son named Jacob. Jacob has 12 children of Israel. Those 12 children of Israel are living in this land. But what you need to understand about this part of the world is over here, unlike Singapore, by the way, we're very heavily dependent on rain. When we have a period of 5, 10, 15 years of no rain, there's going to be a drought. There's going to be a famine. And the Jews immigrate and they leave this area over here, and they don't want to go back to where Abraham came from. They're going west to Egypt. And at Egypt, they're first welcomed by Pharaoh, as you know, and later on, they're enslaved by Pharaoh for 400 years until they reach out to God and like, hey, remember us? We're your chosen people. Take us out of here. And God, with his might, sends Moses, and he takes the Jews out of Egypt. And the Jews are marching through the desert for 40 years. And as they're about to finish their wandering in the desert, they're led to their homeland. They're led to their homeland by a leader named Joshua, who will take them across the Jordan River, and they will re-enter the land. And the Jews are going to settle on their own land, but I want to share with you what this really looks like, because a lot of people miss this point. And the point is that this really, one sec, sorry, I'm still getting used to all the technology that we have here running in the background, but I just want to show you a map of what this really looks like. And sec. All right, sorry about that. We will get this smoother in just a second. Okay. Do you see this map? Do you see it in the background? If you do, give me a thumbs up. All right. So what we're seeing here, this is the map of the 12 tribes. Each one of the Jews settles in its own little area. And at some point, the Jews are being bullied by all the nations living around them. And all the nations living around them are attacking the Jews. And at some point, the Jews go to the prophet, and what are they telling the prophet? We want a king that will get us ready for war, a king that will gather our troops, that will be a just leader. And the prophet, Samuel, tells the Jews, you don't want a king. King is going to take your sons to be his slaves. He's going to take your daughters to be his wives. He's going to take your money for his taxes. You really want a king? And I don't know if any of you have children, but they gave him the best excuse that one can give. Everyone else has one. Why can't we have a king? And finally, the Jews are going to get the first king. First king, not very historically memorable. King Saul. Second king, you all know who he is, King David. And King David, for the first time in Jewish history, does something that was never done before. He collects the Jews around one central city that does not belong to any of the other tribes. It's in a neutral area. And he calls it his capital. And this is the kingdom of kingdoms. But we know in history that this land that we are living in is always trapped between two of the world's ancient superpowers, one in the east and one in the west. And whenever these empires try and expand their power, they're going to crush down everything that exists over here. That's exactly what's going to happen at the time of the Babylonian Empire. The Babylonian Empire is going to expand in power. They're going to take over the kingdom of King David. They're going to take the Jews out and exile them to Babylon. But you know how history goes, right? Empires rise and empires fall. And every empire has its own policy as to how and control their large empire. And after the Babylonian Empire falls, the Persian Empire rises. The Persian Empire says, you know what? Instead of going around destroying different temples, we're going to let everyone come and rebuild their own temples. So the Jews are leaving Babylon, coming back to Jerusalem. Do you see right here behind me? And they're rebuilding the second temple. It's right over here. That's where the Jews build their second temple. But empires